So that's Aleph Aleph.
Yeah.
All are obliged in Riyah, except for a deaf person, an imbecile, a minor, a person of undetermined sex, a hermaphrodite, right? Women, forget it. It's nothing. Slaves who have not been freed, the lame, the blind, the infirm, the aged, and one who is unable to ascend by foot. Who is deemed a minor? Whoever cannot ride on his father's shoulders and ascend from Yerushalayim to the Temple Mount. These are the words of Beit Shammai. Beis Hillel says, whoever cannot hold his father's hand and ascend from Yerushalayim to the Temple Mount, for the verse states 3 pilgrimages. Beit Shammai says the oldest Riyah must be worth at least 2 silver mos, and the Shalmi Chagiga at least 1 silver ma. The Beis Hillel says the oldest Riyah must be worth at least 1 silver ma, and the Shalmi Chagiga at least 2. Olas which are not obligatory may be brought during Kol HaMoed. All olas may be brought only from unconsecrated funds, while shalamin may be purchased with tithe money. Concerning the Chagiga brought on the first day of Pesach, Beis Shammai says it may be purchased only with unconsecrated money. Beis Hillel says it may be purchased with tithe money. Okay.
Mishna Daled, Yisrael Yotz in Yedei Chovasan Benadarim Benadavas. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about Shalmei Simcha. So aside from so we've got the obligatory thing, there's the Olas Re'iyah, you've got to bring an Olah when you come, you've got to have a Chagiga, which is the Chagiga sacrifice, which we've been talking about, and then there's also Shalmei Simcha. You should have a little bit extra of meat during the Chag, which Yisrael can fulfill by bringing his nadarim or nadavas that he promised during the year. So let's say sometime in the middle of January he decided that he was going to that he wanted to donate this. He wanted to bring this ox as a korban shlamim. So he says Harei ze shlamim. And he says, okay, great. So it hangs around and it's being kept aside, ready for the shlamim. And comes the regel. He comes up to Yerushalayim and he shechts it. And now he's also yotze with that on his Shalmei Simcha. Even though it's something that was a chova on him, it had already been designated, and he didn't specifically have in mind for it at the time that he made the neder. But there it is. It's good enough. It's good enough. Let's say on the
he designates this animal if in between the time that he designated the animal and the time that he's ready to go to Yerushalayim. If that animal dies, he gets a mum. So does he pick another one then?
So that's a different question. That depends if it's a neder or a nadava. Right? We've had that distinction before, that if he says Harei alai, if he takes on a personal obligation, then then he has to bring another one. If he says Harei zor, then that one is the one that's been designated, and if it dies, he's not responsible for it. Okay. So anyway, we're talking here about the Shalmei Simcha, which comes from the pasuk the Samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha, that you have to rejoice in front of Hashem, and this is the meat. The simcha is with the meat, and the samachta b'chagecha also. V'kohanim b'chatas of rashamos, and the kohanim who happen to be serving there, they can also be yotzei their obligation to have shalmei simcha by eating from the chatos that people bring, even though it's completely kodshim, and it's not even their meat. But that's good enough that they have some meat during the Chag in order to be yotzei the Shalmei Simcha. Okay, v'shamos u'bach b'chor b'chazeh v'shok, and even with the priestly gifts, the chazeh v'shok, those things. So the Yisraelim come and they bring their shlamim, and then they give a portion of that to the kohanim, and the kohanim can say, okay, so I'm yotzei now with the Shalmei Simcha. That's my duty done. Aval lo ba'ofos v'lo b'manachos, but they can't be yotzei on fowl, on birds that are brought, and not with a mincha. So even though birds are fleshik midrabanan, they're not considered fleshik as far as the mitzvah of Shalmei Simcha. Okay, Mishna Hey. So if somebody has lots of people in his family and he doesn't have that much money, okay, maybe shlamim merubim V'olos muatos. So if he has, then he must bring lots of shlamim so that people can eat it, and not so much in olos. He shouldn't spend too much money on the ola. He should spend all of his money on getting lots of shlamim so that everyone in his family can eat. If he's got lots of money, but not that many people in his family, maybe olos merubos or shlamim muatim. Then let him bring extra olos to celebrate, because that'll all go in his back. There won't be any wastage. But just a few, as much shlamim as his family needs.
The Kohanim, they have to eat this meat from other people if they need to. Is there a minimum shear? Is it just a kazayas and that fulfills it?
Kazayas is yotze. Anytime we have an achila, a requirement of achila, kazayas is enough.
So it fulfills his obligation. That's it.
Oh.
Isn't it? Right. Okay.
Yep. Okay. If he has zemuat, if he's poor and he's got a small family, al zenemar. So this goes back to our first Mishna or second Mishna. The second Mishna. It says ma kesef ushtei kesef. Right, one ma of kesef for the ola and two ma's for the shlamim according to Beis Hillel. So that's the minimum shear. They don't give less than one ma for ola and less than two for shlamim, and that's how much you should spend if the person is poor and doesn't have that many people to feed. Okay, so then you go through the minimum shear. If the person is wealthy and he's got a big family, then it's like be generous and give as much as you want, however you feel like distributing it between olos and shlamim. So when somebody's wealthy, then he should go according to the generosity of his heart. Okay, mi shelo chag b'yom tov harishon shel chag chogeg is kol haregel b'yom tov ha'achron shel chag. So in other words, if that means did he not bring the olas riyah and the shalmei chagiga? So those are the obligatory things that he's supposed to bring on the first day of Chag. If he failed to bring them on the first day, he's got the whole of Chol HaMoed. And when it comes to Shavuos, he's got 6 days after Shavuos as well in order to bring these things. That's the amount of time that's all considered part of the Chag, and he's allowed to bring. He can bring all of his korbanos then. Okay. Avar haregel v'lo chag, but if that time period has passed, then he doesn't have any monetary penalty. He doesn't have to pay anything else. He's lost the opportunity. Something that is crooked cannot be made straight. If this is the chesron lo yuchal limanos and the lacking cannot be counted. How to translate it? Basically, you missed the opportunity. It's blown. There's nothing else you can do about it, and too bad. Okay, so it's not. So you shouldn't look at it as there's a penalty for not doing it. Yeah, okay, you didn't do it. That's like you just missed out. So that's the loss. Okay.
Am I correct in that? Usually when they refer to the festival, they're referring to Sukkot, correct?
In this context, they're referring to all three.
For all of them, I realize, right. But
it's relevant to all of them. So in general, when we're talking about Chag, we're talking about Sukkot, but in this context, it's all three of them.
Okay. All right. On to Aladal. We may trap moles and mice in an orchard or in a grain field in the usual manner during Kol HaMoed and during Shemitah. The Chachamim, however, say that in an orchard we may trap in the usual manner, but in a grain field we may do so only in an unusual manner. We may block up a breach during Kol HaMoed, but during Shemitah we may build it up in the usual manner. Rameya says we may examine the Negayim for the first time in order to render a lenient verdict, but not to render a stringent one. The Chachamim say we may not examine a nega whether for a lenient or for a stringent verdict. Rameya also said a person may gather his father's and mother's bones for burial, as it is a source of joy for him. Rabbi Yossi says it is a source of mourning for him. A person may not inspire lamentations for the dead relative, nor eulogize him during the 30 days preceding a festival. We may not do burial niches nor build tombs during Kol HaMoed, but we may adopt burial niches during Kol HaMoed. Dig wash ponds during Kol HaMoed and construct a coffin in the courtyard with the deceased. Rabbi Yehuda prohibits the latter unless the boards are at hand. Okay. All right.
Okay, Rosh Hashanah Beis Zion.
The head of the basin says, "It is sanctified." And all the people respond after him, "It is sanctified, it is sanctified." Whether it appeared at its expected time or whether it did not appear at its expected time, they sanctify the day. If Elazar ben Zadok says, if it did not appear at its expected time, they do not sanctify, for it has already been sanctified by heaven. Rabbi Gamliel had moon-shaped forms on a tablet and on the wall of his upper chamber, which he would show the simple folk and say to them, "Did you see the moon like this or like that?" It happened that two witnesses came and said, "We saw it in the morning and in the east and in the evening in the west." Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori said, "They are false witnesses." But when they came to Yavna, Rabbi Gamliel accepted them. On another occasion, two witnesses came and said, "We saw it at its expected time, but on the night of the added day, it did not appear," and Rabbi Gamliel accepted them. Those who have been hearkened said, "They are false witnesses. How can they testify that a woman gave birth and the next day her belly is between her teeth?" Rabbi Yeshua said to him, "I agree with your argument." And Rabbi Gamliel said a message to him, "I decreed upon you that you come with me with your staff and your money on the day that Yom Kippur will fall according to your reckoning." Rabbi Akiva went and found him troubled, so he said to him, "I can elucidate that whatever Rabbi Gamliel did is validly done, for it says these are the holidays of Hashem, holy convocations that you shall declare to them. Whether declared in their expected time or not in their expected time, I have no holidays but these." He came to Reb Dosa ben Harkness, who said to him, "If we come to reconsider the decisions of Rabbi Gamliel's Bezdin, then we must reconsider the decisions of every Bezdin that arose in the days of Moshe until now. As it is said, they went up to Moses and Aaron, Nadav, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. Why are the names of the elders not expressly mentioned? Only to teach us that every three people who arose in a Bezdin for Israel are considered like the Bezdin of Moses." When he took his staff and his money in his hand and went to Yavna to Rabbi Gamliel on the day that Yom Kippur fell, according to his reckoning, Rabbi Gamliel stood up and kissed him on his head and said, "Come in peace, my master and my disciple, my master in wisdom and my disciple, and that you accepted my words."
Okay.
He accepted his words, even though he shouldn't be carrying his money with him. He accepted this.
He accepted that Rabbi Gamliel, who had paskened the Rosh Chodesh correctly, Rosh Chodesh of Rosh Hashanah, basically.
Right.
He said it was a false witness. It was clearly a false witness, and therefore
right.
Rosh Hashanah should have been a day later. So Rabbi Gamliel wouldn't tolerate any kind of dissent over here. He said, "You have to accept this psak and come on the day that you would have said it was Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur.
Right.
You have to come wearing your money belt to show that it's not Yom Kippur."
Okay, we have Pesachim. Above Aleph. These things pertaining to the Pesach offering override Shabbos: its slaughter, throwing of its blood, removal of the offal from its entrails, and the burning of its fats. But its roasting and the rinsing of the entrails do not override Shabbos. Carrying it, bringing it from outside the Sabbath limit, and cutting off its wart does not override the Sabbath. Rabbi Eliezer says they do override it. Said Rabbi Ezra, this is not a logical argument. If slaughter of the Pesach, which is scripturally prohibited as a labor, overrides Shabbos, then these which are forbidden merely because of the rabbinic prohibition should certainly override Shabbos. They said to Rabbi Shua to them, "Let the festival laws prove this. For on it they permitted labor, but forbid it on what is prescribed because of rabbinic prohibition." Eliezer said to him, "What is this, Yeshua? What proof can be deduced from a permissible act to a mitzvah?" Rabbi Akiva responded and said, "Let sprinkling prove this, for it is a mitzvah and is forbidden because of rabbinic prohibition and does not override Shabbos. So you should not wonder about these, that even though they are a mitzvah and are forbidden because of rabbinic prohibition, they do not override Shabbos." Said Rabbi Eliezer to him, What about this do I apply my logic? If slaughter which is forbidden because it is categorized as a labor overrides Shabbos, then sprinkling which is forbidden only by rabbinic prohibition should surely override Shabbos. Said Rabbi Akiva, perhaps the opposite is more correct. If sprinkling which is forbidden by rabbinic prohibition does not override Shabbos, then slaughtering which is forbidden because it is categorized as a labor should surely not override Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer said to him, Akiva, you have uprooted what is written in the Torah. In the afternoon, it is appointed in its appointed time, which implies both on weekdays and on Shabbos. Said he, Rabbi Akiva, to him, my master, give me an appointed time for these, which is like the appointed time for your slaughter. A general rule was stated by Rabbi Akiva. Any labor that can be performed on the Eid of Shabbos does not override Shabbos. Slaughtering which cannot be performed on the Eid of Shabbos does not override Shabbos.
We had exactly the same machlokas when it came to in Hilchos Shabbos, when talking about the bris milah, where Rabbi Eliezer was saying that you can do any malacha. If you've got a bris milah that's meant to be on Shabbos, then you can do any malacha you want for the thing, including lighting a fire to sharpen the blade and and whatever. And then Rabbi Akiva came and said, you can't, not if it could have been done before Shabbos. Only the things that have to be done on Shabbos are actually made to cover. Okay.
Okay, Gimel. When does one bring a Chagiga with it? When it is affirmed offered on a weekday in purity and is insufficient. But when it is offered on the Sabbath or is abundant or in contamination, we do not bring a Chagiga with it.
Okay, and remember we just spoke about that, I think, yesterday. Yeah. Okay. Next we want Hey Zion.
If while passing through the vineyard, some seeds fell from it or dropped with the manure or with the water, if while sowing the wind blew it behind him, it is permitted. If the wind blew it before him, Rabbi Akiva says, if blades, it must be plowed up, and if in ear, it must be beaten, and if it produced corn, it must be burnt. If one retains thorns in a vineyard, Rabbi Eliezer says, it is rendered forbidden. But the sages say it is not rendered forbidden, only such things like that of which is retained, iris, ivy, king's lily, and all kinds of reeds are not kalayim in a vineyard. Hemp, Reb Tarfon says, it is not kalayim, but the Chachamim say it is kalayim. The artichoke is kalayim in a vineyard. What is an iris? If one plants a row of 5 vines behind a fence 10 tefachim high and beside a ditch 10 tefachim deep and 4 wide, it is given its tillage space of 4 amos. Reb Shammai says one must measure 4 amos from the body of the vines to the field, but Beis Hillel says from the fence to the field. Yochanan ben Nuri says all who say so are mistaken. Only if there are 4 cubits from the roots of the vine to the fence, it is given its tillage space, and the rest may be sown. And how much is the tillage space of the vine? 6 tefachim in each direction. Rabbi Akiva says 3. Caleb. The egg of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size. Rabbi Yossi says the pomegranate, no, that's right, medium size. Rabbi Yehuda says one brings the very largest egg and the very smallest egg, places them in water and divides the water. Rabbi Yossi said, but who can inform me which is the largest and which is the smallest? Rather, it all depends on the estimation of the examiner. The dried fig of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size. Rabbi Yehuda says the largest one of Eretz Yisrael is equal to the medium one of other countries. And the olive of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size, which is an aguri. The barley of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size, which is a desert barley. The lentil of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size, which is an Egyptian lentil. All movable objects convey tumah when they are as thick as an ox goad, one that is neither big nor small, but one of medium size. And what is meant by one of medium size? Anyone that has a circumference of 1/100th. And we have, okay, tests. One who cohabitates with a betrothed Na'ara is not liable unless she is a Na'ara, a virgin betrothed. Still in her father's house. The other one says to him, to which he applies, how can we abandon our God in heaven and go worship wood and stone? If he retracts, it is good. If he says, this is our obligation, it is proper for us. Those standing behind the partition bring him to court and stone him. Including in this is anyone who says, I shall serve, I shall go and serve, let us go and serve, I shall slaughter an offering. I shall go and slaughter an offering, let us go and slaughter an offering, and I shall burn an offering. I shall go and burn an offering, let us go and burn an offering. I shall pour a libation, and I shall go and pour a libation, let us go and pour a libation. I shall bow down, and I shall go and bow down, let us go and bow down. One who leads astray is one who says, let us go and serve idols. A sorcerer who performs a deed is liable, but not one who creates illusions. Rabbi Akiva says in the name of Rabbi Shua, two people may gather cucumbers, one of them gathers and is exempt, while the other one gathers and is liable. The one who performs a deed is liable, and the one who creates an illusion is exempt.
Okay. At Khan.
All right, good.